adult Sunday school leaders, we are at that time of the week again. I apologize for getting this out a little bit late, but I've noticed on the analytics of YouTube that most people watch this from about Saturday noon on up till Sunday morning about 7 or 8 o'clock. So obviously I'm not too late for the majority of you guys. All right, this week we are continuing. We're in our last lesson of the unit entitled Refinance, Ancient Wisdom for Modern Money Management. Like I said, we're in our last session, number 6. It's entitled Give Money Generously. We're looking at Proverbs chapter 11, verses 23 through 29, and the title of the lesson is Use What You Have to Invest in the Lives of Others. This Sunday here at First Baptist Church Whitehall, we are having a focus on Haiti. We have a mission trip that will be leaving in about 4 weeks, and so this is a Sunday where I'll be preaching, talking about the need in Haiti as well as the biblical mandate that we have to go and help. Now, I honestly did not look at the Sunday school lessons when planning this day because we're also taking up a special offering for the mission trip, and with the subject of giving money generously. Well, I didn't plan it that way, but we'll try to use that to our advantage. It's good to remember as we teach through Proverbs, and I know that we're in the very last lesson of this, but let's remind the class of the genre of literature that we're looking at. Proverbs is read and interpreted differently than, let's say, a historical narrative, than the Gospels, than Paul's letters, Paul's epistles. Proverbs are a bunch of sayings that go together and can be read individually. And if you read through Proverbs, you'll see sometimes it'll list one, and then there's another one that doesn't seem to be a connection between these. They're just sayings. Now, let me go out on a limb here and say that Proverbs are not to be interpreted as 100% true all of the time in all circumstances. Okay, now before you think I'm a heretic and I'm preaching against the authority and inspiration of the Bible, let me explain to you what I mean. I'll give you a good example of that. As I'm going to read to you out of Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4. See, what I'm trying to say here is that these are general principles that apply a lot of the time. Now listen to this out of Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4. It says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him." Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Don't answer a fool, don't respond to a fool the same way that they are acting, the same way they're talking, the same logic they're using, because if you do that, you're going to look as silly as the fool, right? That makes sense. So don't answer a fool according to his folly. Let's look at the very next verse. Verse 5 says, "Answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes." Well, that doesn't make much sense. We've got two conflicting proverbs. Verse 4 says, "Don't answer a fool," and verse 5 says, "Answer a fool according to his folly." But in verse 5, if we think about it, sometimes a person who's really acting, let's just say stupid, saying weird things, sometimes you need to respond, you need to show them how silly they are acting, or else if nobody's correcting them, they're going to think that they're very smart. So these are principles. Proverbs are principles that can be applied and are generally true. So let's not take them as 100% gospel and pull a proverb out and build a theology around it. That's all I'm saying. All right, I'm going to leave you to your Leader's Guide and to other commentaries and other resources you use throughout the week to get you through the verse-by-verse explanations. I just want to leave you with a few questions that you might ponder on and then ask your class on Sunday. The first question would be, if a person is blessed with an abundance of resources, does that make him or her more likely to be generous? And of course we know the answer to that is no. It doesn't mean that at all. Let me tell you of a couple of examples that I've personally experienced, and that is that I haven't preached in a lot of churches, but I have preached in some fairly good size and some pretty small. I've noticed that those smaller churches, the churches that are poorer, don't have as much resources, they tend to be more generous, not only with the reception of the guest preacher, but also with the honorarium, right? And that would be the money that they pay the guest preacher. Now, we know, hopefully, most preachers aren't in it for the money, but it's interesting to me that those smaller churches are the churches that are more generous with an honorarium. Now, I've even found that true in foreign countries. I've preached in Mexico and Brazil as well. In both of those areas that I was in, very small, very poor congregations, and they were very much more generous with gifts and just the reception of the guest preacher. So anyway, all that to say that having a lot of money doesn't necessarily make you more generous. Now, so a question would be, what prevents that? What prevents generosity, especially in Christians? Why is it when God blesses us with an abundance of money, we aren't more generous? God's been very generous to us. Why can't we be more generous to other people? That's a good question to throw around and see what kind of answers come up. Okay, how about some practical things? What is it your class can do as a class to promote generosity? I know Operation Christmas Child is just around the corner. You might get together and set a goal of 5 or 10 boxes, just depending on your class makeup and your class size, and put those boxes together as a class. Promotes generosity. And then we can take that down even to the family level. What can a family do to be generous? What can an individual do to be generous? To promote generosity, to start just getting that mindset of sharing and being generous. So those are just some questions I'd like to throw out to you that you may or may not want to use in class. Now next week we are in the very last lesson of the quarter. Now if you remember how our Sunday school literature is broken out, we have a 6-week unit, and then we'll have another 6-week unit, that's 12 weeks. Of course, there are usually 13 weeks in the quarter, so at the end there's usually a special focus lesson. It's just a one-lesson emphasis on a particular topic. And I think last year we had, very strangely, had 14 weeks in the quarter, so we had 2 of those lessons. So, next week we're looking in the book of Luke, looking at the parable of the Good Samaritan, and the title of the lesson will be Love Gets Involved. So, that's what I have for now. Hope you have a great class.